How's it going, everyone? Today I'm bringing you, well, quite a different video this time. I thought it'd be cool to try and expand from the highlights and let's plays I've been doing and bring you sort of a more substantial video in the way of mixing a bit of review and gameplay for today's content. A review play? I don't know. Now, before I dive into today's topic, the main reason for me in sharing this particular game with you is because this is, and probably still will be, my all-time favorite video game. I played this a lot as a kid, and this was the first game of this genre that I played and just loved to bits. Chances are, though, there's probably only a handful of you who have actually played and enjoyed this game, and no doubt I could count on my fingers the amount of ladies who have played this game. Probably because it was geared towards a male audience at the time, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. Now, I'm hoping I can find others in the YouTube community who has the same amount of appreciation I have for this game. Otherwise, I'll probably see as much people as I do at an Alexander Bridge gig. It's no one, guys. Please come to our gigs. Nervous Laughter EP is $10. So, Azure Dreams is a roguelike RPG game that was released in 1998 by Konami on PlayStation 1. There were other versions of this game on Game Boy Color, but most of, and probably the thousands of hours that I spent on this game was on the PS1. The reception on this game is pretty mixed, considering that some people find the dungeon crawling element of these types of games tedious, and some argued that there was a lack of character development, all of which is sort of true, but considering that this game was made in the 90s when this was against competition of a similar monster genre, and that was Pokemon Red and Blue, I believe that this is one of the many titles that slipped under the radar of potentially mainstream success, but I digress, and that wasn't completely biased. The game is set in a small desert town called Monspire, which is situated under a mysterious and magic-filled monster tower which sustains most of the town's economy. The various monsters protect the vast amount of riches within the walls, and the precious monster eggs, which fetch high prices in gold, making this a risky but rewarding enterprise for the intrepid adventurer. Wow, say that 5 times. Now, you assume the role of a young red-haired boy whose father was a renowned monster tamer. And without spoiling too much of the plot for you, one day his father enters the tower, and after a significant magical event which occurs at the top of the tower, his father never comes home, leaving his family behind clueless as to what happened. The impact his father had on him motivated him to follow in his footsteps and become a monster tamer himself, but also in hopes that he'll find out what happened to his father as he explores the tower. So once you begin the main storyline, the gameplay is pretty straightforward, and you can break it down to 3 main elements of the game. The first one, of course, is the dungeon crawling aspect of the game, where you'll spend 80% of your time in the monster tower. You'll grab as much treasure as you can, collect eggs to hatch in your monster hut at home, and upgrade your weapons with magical sands to make trawling the higher levels more bearable. There's a sort of survival horror element in the game where opportunities will present itself as a risk-reward system, and sometimes it pays off big time, but other times you'll leave with your tail in between your legs to protect what you collected, or die and lose it all. Within the tower, you'll see the main story unfold, including what happened to your father and what treasure lies at the top of the tower. As I mentioned just a little while back, if you happen to die within the tower, you'll lose all of your items except the home-hatched monsters, which further adds to the risk of trawling the tower in those higher levels. However, once you've upgraded that one gold sword and mirror shield or diamond shield, whatever you fancy, to a high enough level, you can blitz the tower without having to rely on any monsters whatsoever. With some of the monsters that you collect, you can level them up to their max level, and in some cases they evolve into a new form. This is sounding all too familiar. And you can combine different monsters together to give them additional traits or boosts to make yourself a sort of super monster. It also goes without saying that each monster carries a certain element of the 3 main ones which exist in the game: fire, water, and wind. Much like a very similar game, these elements work off a paper, scissors, rock mechanic where water beats fire, fire beats wind, and wind beats water. Your character, despite having the same attack sprite as a fire-type monster, has in fact no elemental affinity whatsoever. You and your monsters will level up together. However, once you leave the tower, the character's level resets back to 1, but your monsters will maintain their level. This makes it possible to reach the higher levels on the next run. But you can be certain that each run of the tower will mean a certain amount of grinding for your character to get up to a decent level where you can progress to the next stage of the game. So yeah, I definitely can see how the grinding side of things can be pretty tedious, and it does get a little bit frustrating when the turn-based attack speeds are pretty slow as well. The second element is, of course, the relationship building in the game. After you've been saving up your hard-earned gold to lavish on the young women of the town, or found items of significance on the higher floors of the tower, you unlock some character development options for the girls around your age bracket to develop into later romances. While this isn't a crucial part to completing the game, it's enough to add a little bit of flavour to the town, which you can hardly do anything in really. And it gives you something to pursue rather than grind at the tower. As you progress, and once you've retrieved the water medal from the tower, you unlock the pool complex in the town. And I don't know about you, but I can think of 2 quite outstanding reasons why you want to visit this place on a regular basis. This big ass slide, and most importantly, watching these big bold men flex. Not because you want a pervert 16-year-old girl that you have to pay to look at anyway. Once you've won their affections over and they're your girlfriend, they don't offer much in the way of further development aside from visiting your house when you return from the tower to wish you luck, which kinda lets things fall by the wayside. If there was more interaction with them around the town, then perhaps that would give you more of a purpose to pursue this option more, rather than just being your house host. Not only that, but there were some characters with unique personalities like Fawn, the bar staff, and even the doctor, who could have had their own sprites, which would have added more life to the town itself. It just gets me thinking that they spent more time in developing the story in the tower and the girlfriends rather than focus on the impact that it would have in the town as a whole. The last element is the town building, which doesn't provide much in the way of flexibility, but some buildings give you cute little mini games that you can play, while others are simply just to unlock a path with another potential girlfriend. The most disappointing thing I found was that the town building is extremely linear, and there's not much in the way of aesthetics aside from the fountain in the middle of the town. I only wish that they added more beautification options, like more trees to place in the town, and maybe more customization options to make it feel like the town was more personal to you. Back for its time though, this was leaps and bounds ahead of what was on offer, and they've come a long way in other roguelike town building games such as Dark Chronicle on PS2 for example. I'm not even going to mention the semi-sequel to Azure Dreams, which was a complete and utter turd on the DS. One thing I definitely have to mention, or I may as well hand in my degree, is the soundtrack of the game. The general motifs for the different characters and the girlfriends are very unique and well suited to their look. Most of the music loops you'll hear, however, will stem from the tower, where the first floor has a very peppy sort of beginning of a new adventure feel with a unique blend of string and woodwind instruments. As you progress further up the tower, the timbre of the composition changes to a more darker and foreboding tone, which brings us back to that survival horror feel I mentioned earlier. That being said, the compositions follow the same original motif as the first floor, which is pretty clever. So overall, Azure Dreams is a solid little game, and if you're a fan of the roguelike genre, you'll probably enjoy what this game has to offer. Seeing as though it's such a dated game now, wow, it's almost 20 years old. It probably won't appeal to most people nowadays. But something along the similar vein without the dating sim is probably the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. But no matter how old this game gets, I think it will still continue to bring me much joy. For the dungeon crawling, not the staring at the many swimsuits. And yeah, that about wraps things up for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and even if you made it this far and listened to the whole thing, I really appreciate the support. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think in the comments if you don't mind this style of video in the future. And if you're a fan of this series, it'd be cool to hear your experiences of the game, since I only have myself to talk about it at this stage. And yeah, subscribe if you want to see what future stuff comes out. See you next time. This is Crisp Owl signing off.
Alexander Bridges EP, Nervous Laughter, is out now. Go get it.
Where's the